What is up, everyone? JD Geeks here. Today, we are talking about another 3D printed blaster. Well, almost fully 3D printed. Other than the hardware for the blaster itself, the other thing that isn't 3D printed is the shell. The shell is actually very thin and very light metal, and it is a mixture of the 3D printing and the metal components of this blaster, which means you can customize any of the colors you want, but still have the rigidity of a full metal blaster. Well, almost full metal blaster. The only things that really are 3D printed is the Picatinny rail, which you can have angled, as you see here, to help adjust for your sight. You get your different colored grip or pistol grip, pump grip, or normal foregrip if you want. And then a whole bunch of accent colors around the blaster itself, including a cheek rest and a stock. This blaster looks very, very cool. I actually like it a lot. And then it is still extremely light compared to other metal blasters like the G2 or the Saber Apex Prime that I have reviewed previously. This blaster actually feels and looks very cool, and I'm very excited to show you this. This blaster is called the Falx. Let me see if this will show up well. So this blaster is the Falx. This is, as I said, a 3D printed and metal blaster. It has a very nice prime to it. I did not have the stock locked in, but that's fine. And then there are some pretty cool features to this. So in order to give it that kind of blocked off trigger assembly, they kind of had the mag release stick out so your finger's kind of trapped. And then you can also use it to release the mag as well. This mag well is pretty nice. It is only half length mag compatible, but still very, very nice. And the trigger is extremely, extremely short. This trigger, there is almost no play, just a little bit of a click. And then as soon as you give it a little bit more juice, it's gone and it's pushing it'll shoot off the dart. The stock itself is pretty nice. I think it's pretty decent for only having the two prongs. I have had other blasters like that, like the Unicorn Tactical, and that one is also pretty good, but I do know of some that fail because it isn't a buffer tube stock. I do prefer buffer tube stocks, but still this one is very, very sturdy. Another cool feature about this blaster is you can quickly swap out the springs on the inside because of the access to the springs through this little piece right here. So there are some really cool features about this blaster. Like I said there, you can also unscrew this cullet, pop the barrel right off. There's a built-in clip for a sling. Couldn't think of the word for a second. But this blaster feels really nice, looks very nice, and you don't even really need a vertical grip because of how light this prime is. I think my buddy said it's shooting right around 250, maybe even higher. And this blaster looks and feels amazing. He did not tell me the price of this blaster, so if you are curious about that, I will leave it in the description below. But let's take this to the chronograph and then we'll do some accuracy testing. I will see you outside. All right, here we are at the chronograph with the Falx. Again, what a beautiful blaster this is. But let's see what we're hitting FPS wise. We got the normal setup: 5 worker darts, 5 saber heavy T's, 5 normal bamboos, and then we got 5 of the Nitro Shot Plus darts. So let's see what the Falx is hitting. We're getting, whoa, 244.6. 252.8. That is crazy. This prime is very, very light. 236.5. All right, we got 2 shots left. 247.4. Last one. 253.3. What an absolutely crazy blaster for that light of a prime. All right, now the Saber Heavy T-Darts. 219.6. 227.4. 215.1. 216.8. And last one, 218.6. All right, let's jump into the bamboo darts and see how high this thing can get. 290.8. 283.1. 279.6. 284.2. And last shot for the normal bamboos, 288.3. All right, and now Nitro Shot Plus darts. 260.2. 248.5. 257.9. 250.7. 257.3. All right, so this blaster is hitting very, very hard, and the prime is super light. I would actually compare the prime to be lighter than the Harrier, and it's hitting just below it in FPS, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. But that's enough talking about the FPS of the blaster. Let's test how accurate it is. I will see you at the targets. All right, everyone. Here we are at the target with the Falx. I'm really excited to see how well this blaster does at the 50-foot range. It seemed to do really good with the FPS. It was hitting a lot higher than I thought it was with the prime, but let's see how good it actually is accuracy-wise. So I don't have a sight on the Falx, but I'm assuming that it should do just fine without it. So the spring is a little crunchy. Sorry if you can hear that through the microphone, but let's get right into this accuracy testing. Just off to the left. Hit. 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 A little high. Hit the black. Hit. 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 Got 3 shots left. Hit. Hit. And final shot. And hit. So I'm fairly certain every shot at least hit the target. They might have not hit the actual silhouette portion of the target, but they at least hit the cardboard itself, maybe in the black area, but it was extremely, extremely accurate, and that's without a sight at all. This blaster is absolutely amazing, but let's talk about it a bit more inside. I will see you in the display room. All right, everyone. We are now back from the chronograph and FPS testing with the Falx. This blaster, I really, really liked it when I first started using it and feeling it. It feels cool. I've always been a fan of metal blasters, so being able to have one that's 3D printed and metal so you can choose the colors a bit more is definitely a bonus for me. And this is currently might be my favorite 3D printed blaster. I do really like this blaster in the fact that with this very light prime, you can get 270 with it. That was probably about the average of that chronograph testing. That was insane. This blaster with a super light prime hitting 270 It looks good, feels good, and the accuracy of this blaster is also amazing. I would gladly buy this blaster if I didn't already have other blasters that fill its niche. I have the G2, which I do prefer slightly more. Although this is a very, very sturdy blaster and there is no issues at all in that sense, I do just like the feel and look of the G2 Max just a tad bit more. Actually, let me get it down and we can do a quick comparison for looks wise. So, again, I am a buffer tube stock fan, so I do have a buffer tube stock on. I have a slightly angled foregrip, but the magazine release on the G2 and the trigger itself is just absolutely gorgeous and feels amazing. The prime on the G2 is also very, very light. And the fact that it has a return spring is another bonus for me. I do like return springs. That's why I like the Seagull and the Harrier. But I do still prefer the G2, even though it is definitely a bit heavier. So this blaster, is it worth getting? Personally, I think that is up to you. I know the G2 Max is kind of hard to come by nowadays. You'd only really be able to find it online if someone was selling theirs, because I know at least Black Raisin and Ideal Foam Blasters do not sell that anymore. They've moved to the E2, which is a bit more expensive. But this blaster here, I think it is probably close to the 200 to 300 range. I will have to figure that out and I'll put it in the description below. But man, is this thing a beautiful blaster. I would recommend it if you're looking for something that you can customize the colors a bit on and still have that metal rigidity. So this is a good one to go for in my opinion. But this is JD Geeks signing off. Have a good one.